You know, I really should consider filming more videos before the sun sets. I kind of like the lighting in here better when I do. Unfortunately, I usually don't get to do that because I work late hours and the sun is typically down by the time I get home. But today is Columbus Day, it's a federal holiday, and I'm a contractor for the federal government, so I got the day off. Huzzah! I'm happy about that. But anyway, moving right along, there's a lot to talk about in this video. I want to explain some future videos I have coming up. I want to talk about Hell in a Cell. I want to talk about War Games, which is really going to be the main part of the video. And just for shits and giggles, I want to rant on the New York Giants because they forced my hand and I kind of have to. I need to vent on how awful my team is and how they are almost assuredly going 0-16. But anyway, let's just get started. Upcoming videos. I've been watching Wrestle Kingdoms 3 and 4, all the way through 3. I'm a bit of the way through 4, should be done by tomorrow, and those reviews should be up fairly soon. I'm also working on a couple of videos related to or not just WWE, but wrestling match trilogies and Halloween-esque matches. So those videos will be out at the latest by the end of the month, so be on the lookout for those. Yeah, just a bunch of other things lined up. King of Pro Wrestling, New Japan's latest show. I want to do a review of that at some point. Ultima Lucha Night 3 and Night 4. Since I've already done reviews for Nights 1 and 2, might as well do reviews for those as well. So those will be coming out soon. So yeah, a lot of stuff lined up over the next couple weeks. So get ready to get sick of me because I'm going to be posting a lot of content. But anyway, let's just get started with Hell in a Cell. WWE's latest pay-per-view happened last night. I did not watch it last night. I decided to watch Sunday Night Football. Kansas City and Houston had a pretty good game. And I also watched a little bit of... I finished up Wrestle Kingdom 3 as well. So, got all of that out of the way. Didn't care enough about Hell in a Cell to actually watch it. But I did receive messages from people telling me, if you watch nothing else, at least watch the 2 Hell in a Cell matches, because those were actually pretty good. And I even got a message from Deluxe Man on Twitter telling me I need to watch the New Day and Usos one. And I said, okay, sure, I've got the day off tomorrow anyway, so I might as well just knock it out in the morning. And I did, and I thought Usos and New Day pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good one. I liked how they worked it more like a fight instead of like a stunt brawl like most tag team matches are these days. They worked it very much like a legit fight, and I kind of liked it. They kind of... it felt like they were beating the crap out of each other, which is good by me. No blood, of course, but I'm willing to make that concession if everything else is good. I got a little mad at the announcers and everybody else when they tried to make it look like when the Usos they had Xavier Woods handcuffed and they were beating on him with the kendo sticks, and they tried to make it look like it was this brutal and vicious thing. It's like, oh, how could they? And I'm like, motherfucker, New Day did it first! They did it to, I think it was Jay. They trapped him in the corner and started wailing on him with kendo sticks. I'm like, they did it first! What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Fucking hell, I hate WWE baby faces. Everything's just so biased towards them. But anyway, I thought the match was very enjoyable. I was legitimately surprised that it wasn't Kofi Kingston in there and they put Xavier Woods in there, but the match worked out very well as a result. Xavier, he's been holding his own in some of these recent matches. I mean, I thought they had the match of the night at Battleground. I thought, well, I mean, I only watched 2 matches from this pay-per-view, but I thought he did really well here as well. So, overall, pretty solid match. Usos get the win. No complaints. Good stuff all around. I did not watch the rest of the show. I did not care to watch the rest of the show. The card did not intrigue me. I heard that Orton and Rusev went 15 minutes. I'm like, fuck you, I'm not watching that. It's like, no, hell no am I sitting through that. I can think of a ton of other things I could spend 15, 20 minutes doing. Working out, eating a meal, jerking off. Literally, I can come up with a dozen different things that I would like to do instead of watching a Randy Orton-Rusev match. So, don't need to talk about that. Charlotte and Natalya, heard ended in a DQ, whatever, it's fine. I heard they added Ty Dillinger to the U.S. title match, which reeked of... I heard Corbin won, and I wonder if, like, AJ pulled a thing, it's like, I'm not putting Baron Corbin over. And so they just added Ty to the 3-way to make that happen. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but it just felt like that's a random addition. Okay. It's like, I mean, shrug your shoulders, sure, why not? I heard Jinder retained because of course he did. And then I watched the Hell in a Cell between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens. It dragged a little bit in places, but overall was pretty good. Some of the stuff they did to each other was brutal. When they went up on top of the cell, that was some scary shit. That was like every scaffold match I've ever seen, or every Hell in a Cell match where they go up top, and I'm just holding my breath, just going, please don't die. Just please don't die. Please don't die. One match that I wish there had been a camera on me while I was watching it was the AJ Styles Rhino Elevation X match that TNA did. I was like, guys, this is like, okay, at least the Hell in a Cell, there's a big surface area. Yeah, they're 20 feet off the ground, but there's a big surface area, so they at least have room to walk around, and even if they trip and stumble, they'll probably be okay as long as they're not near the edge. The Elevation X was like this tiny little catwalk thing, and I'm like, that does not look safe at all. And I was just fearful that somebody was going to die, and Rhino looked like he did not want to be there. Like, Rhino looked like he was scared shitless, and I don't blame him. So, yeah, if you can get through those situations without anybody getting hurt, I'm typically, okay, you made it and you scared the hell out of me, so points for that. Shane, of course, had to dive off the cell again because he's a crazy son of a bitch. But we did get this nice twist ending with Sami Zayn helping Kevin Owens to win. I was like, that's interesting. So a former friend of Owens turned enemy is now helping him beat Shane McMahon. Why'd he do that? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I am legitimately intrigued. I'm going to watch SmackDown this week just to find out why Sami Zayn did what he did. And you know what? It just create things that are interesting. Just, if you can create situations that legitimately capture my interest, I'm going to watch your show. I have not watched SmackDown in at least 4 months, 3 or 4 months, but they finally dumped something that makes me go, oh, okay. I kind of want to watch that. I want to see what happens there. And good on you, WWE. Good on you. So even though I didn't watch the rest of the show, I didn't watch the entire middle, I would say the 2 Hell in a Cell matches were a success, and they gave us a twist ending that legit has me intrigued to watch the show. So you got me. You got me, WWE. More power to you. So, from there, let's jump into War Games, which is going to be the main event of the next NXT TakeOver special. This was an announcement that was made, and as I mentioned last week, I was going to do a video about whether or not WWE should bring back War Games, because they're bringing back Starrcade. Goldberg got a big push at WrestleMania this year, and they didn't book him like shit. So it's like, man, is WWE getting so desperate that that company that they've literally made fun of for the last 15 or so odd years, ever since it closed, actually, so 16 years, that company that they've been making fun of and saying that they're a piece of shit, it's like, are they that desperate that they have to mine for material to generate interest from WCW, that company that they always told us was garbage? Funny how that works. But yeah, they're doing War Games. I have some feelings about that. Hopefully I'm able to offer some intrigue into the discussion. Some people are already trashing the match itself that they're doing. It's going to be Sanity versus the Authors of Pain and Roderick Strong, which is a very odd, pairing. I guess I'll just have to watch NXT to see how that comes about, because it's like, that doesn't make any sense at all, that AOP and Roderick Strong would be joined together. Versus Adam Cole and Red Dragon's new group, the Undisputed Era, which is admittedly not a great name, but it's going to be a 3-team War Games match in the vein of Fall Brawl 98, which was WCW versus NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack, which is also hailed as one of the worst War Game matches ever made. So some people were like, oh my god, you bring it back and you're mimicking the worst one? How dare you? And it's like, I think there were other problems with that one beyond the fact that it was just it had 3 teams. I think it was more the booking and some of the shenanigans with Warrior that really kind of made that one shitty. But anyway, so they're bringing back War Games. Couple of thoughts about that. War Games is a match that a lot of old NWA fans and WCW fans have nostalgia for. It was an annual event. It was a very unique setup with the 2 rings, which always looked awesome. That was the one thing that really captured my attention with War Games the first time I saw it. I was like, man, that 2-ring setup looks awesome. Now, the rest of the show looks awkward as hell because there's a second ring there that's not being used. But, whatever. the visual on the main event always looked really good. So there's that. And you have that roofed cage structure surrounding the 2-ring structure, and typically 8 to 10 guys, 2, 4, or 5-man teams going at each other in just total warfare. And it was always violent and brutal and great, at least in the early days. So on paper, it seems like a really good match to do. And again, a lot of people are nostalgic for it. A lot of people have been asking for it to come back for years. Ever since WWE bought WCW, like, people have been asking, are you going to do War Games? You're going to do War Games? You're going to do War Games? And you've seen, like, versions of War Games. I know Ring of Honor did their Steel Cage Warfare matches, and TNA did Lethal Lockdown, but it wasn't quite the same. It was always one ring. And in TNA's case, it was a 6-sided ring, so it was just kind of like, oh, that looks even smaller than one regular ring would be. But, yeah, so they, even though other companies have tried it, it never quite had the same visual appeal that the War Games matches did. However, I think the 2-ring setup is one of the reasons that Vince never wanted to do it. Aside from the fact that he didn't create it and he doesn't like to do things that he doesn't create. I think that Vince just took one look at that 2-ring setup and was like, fuck you, no way we're doing this. Like, and it is. I'm sure it's a bitch to set up. I'm sure that it costs more money, and it's, they have to find a way to shoot it, because it would be, the structure exists in a way that would be outside of the WWE's norm and how they usually shoot things. So they have to find a way how to actually shoot and produce one of these things. That's another part of it. So I'm sure that's one of the reasons that Vince was hesitant to do it. But I think doing it in NXT, where Hunter makes all the decisions anyway, it's like, whatever, just let Hunter do his thing, and we'll see how it turns out. So I wouldn't be surprised if this NXT doing is kind of a trial run to see if they can do it on the main roster as well. But it is very exciting that they're bringing War Games back. Again, it makes for a very cool visual. However, there are a couple of problems with War Games that kind of keep it from working as a repeat type of match. And, we see it with Hell in a Cell, we see it with TLC, we see it with all these gimmick pay-per-views that WWE does. They love to do these things annually. They love to theme these shows and do these things annually. So if War Games becomes an annual thing for WWE, I think it's going to create problems, booking problems more specifically, beyond just having the 2-ring structure. Part of the problem with doing War Games year after year after year is that certain things get repeated and the matches start to look the same. The big thing for me was always the man advantage. And for those of you uninitiated and don't know what War Games is, the man advantage is the rules are set up in a way where it's 2 teams of either 4 or 5. And you start off with 2 in the ring. They fight for 5 minutes, and then the next person comes down. And it again, kind of like the Royal Rumble, where every 2 minutes or so, a new person comes down to the ring. The man advantage determines which team gets to have the next member come out first. So you'll be 1 man up on the other team the entire way through the match. So you start off with 2, and then a person from the other team comes in. It's 2-on-1. Then it's 2-on-2, then 3-on-2, and the team with the man advantage always has the man advantage throughout the entire match until everybody's inside. The problem with the man advantage is that the heel team always has to have the man advantage. Why do I say that? Because, and which probably won't be an issue with the 3-team War Games, but the heel team always has to have the man advantage, because you can't do a situation where the faces are up 2-1 or 3-2 and get sympathy on them. It just the only time I've ever seen it that I can recall is one of the Lethal Lockdowns. I think it was the Team Hogan versus Team Flair one, where the faces had the man advantage, but one of the face entrants got beat up. I think it was Jeff Hardy. He got beat up on the way to the ring and wasn't able to get inside the cage right away, so they didn't get the man advantage was nullified. So the faces had it, but they didn't get it anyway. There's no way to really work with that structure and not have the heels get the man advantage. Now, the problem with doing it year after year is that it becomes a pattern. It's like, why do the heels always get the man up? That seems unfair. And I started creating a joke. One of my big running jokes among my friends and I is that every heel War Games team had a double-sided coin that determined the man advantage, and they always won the coin toss. But if ever somebody became a babyface, they would Men in Black neuralize them so they forgot about the two-sided coin, just in case they were on a babyface War Games team later on. So it's one of the great conspiracies. There's this two-sided War Games coin that determines, they flip the coin and determine who gets the man advantage, but the heels always win because they know which side to pick. Because of the two-sided coin. That's my wacky wrestling conspiracy theory that in no way makes any sense, but it's a joke, so fuck it. Now, the problem with the heels getting the man advantage every year is that it gets very repetitive, and all the matches start to look the same, and you kind of just start running into the same tropes over and over again. Another problem with it is that the match can't officially end until everybody's inside the ring, so you're stuck in the situation where, the first 15 to 20 minutes of a match are basically pointless. So you can't have near falls or eliminations or anything like that. So it's a very hard match to do. Not saying it's impossible. It's just a very, very hard match to do. And it becomes harder with each annual incarnation. Because they all start to look the same after a while. It happened with TNA. I mean, look at the Lethal Lockdown matches they did. The 2005 one was garbage. That one was bullshit. That's one of the worst matches in TNA history. 2006 Lethal Lockdown, great. 2007 Lethal Lockdown, great. 2008 Lethal Lockdown, pretty good, but not as good. 2009 Lethal Lockdown, pretty good, not as good. And they just kept, the whole diminishing returns thing every year that they did it, because they got to a point where they pretty much did everything, and there was nothing left to do with it. And it just became kind of dull after a while. So, like I said, it's a very hard match to do on an annual basis and as a repeat. So, if WWE is going to do War Games, I would recommend saving it for a rainy day, only doing it when you need it, because that's the other part of it, is that you have to create these 4 and 5 man teams every year, and when you have the NWO running around, it works. When you have the Four Horsemen running around, it works. If you don't have a faction to really make that work, then it's a little bit harder to manufacture a reason to have a War Games match. So yeah, there are some difficulties with executing War Games, and it's a very easy match to screw up, and it's only gonna get harder the more you do it. So yeah, I would recommend not doing it annually, saving it for rainy days or whenever you need it. When you have a heel stable that needs to be taken down, it's a perfect match for that. I would even recommend changing the rule structure to allow eliminations, or do away with the man advantage altogether and just make it like the Royal Rumble. Just straight up random draw, and you could have like a 4-on-1 situation or all types of things like that. But even with that, like, the heels would still have to be the ones with the advantage. It couldn't be you can't have a situation where it's 4-on-1 for the baby faces, and then because again, how do you get sympathy on that? You could probably start off like 2-on-1 for the baby faces, and then after that the heels take over. But again, yeah, so War Games, I think it's great that WWE's bringing it back. I think it's a very cool match. I just hope that, just understand, there are a bunch of difficulties with executing War Games, and it's a very easy match to screw up. Especially in WWE's current creative system, where they don't allow blood, which, I don't know, to me, if you're going to do War Games, if you're going to do Hell in a Cell, and yes, these last 2 Hell in a Cell matches were good, but if you're going to do those things, blood has to be on the table. I'm sorry. It has to be an option, because otherwise you can't really... It's harder to sell it as this violent spectacle if you don't allow blood. The rule structure is very complicated. It's hard to execute annually. There's a lot of difficulties, and to say nothing for the 2-ring setup. So there are a lot of difficulties with executing War Games. Hopefully they do. I hope this first return for War Games is very good, and if it works out, I know WWE will be tempted to do it on the main roster as well. So here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Hope it goes well. And I think it's great that War Games is coming back. There are concerns, and it's very easy to screw up. But it is NXT, and NXT typically has their head in the right place, so I think they have a pretty good idea on how to handle this and how to do it right. So again, good job WWE. Can't wait to see War Games come back, and I'm very interested in seeing it. So I'm actually going to go on the network and watch a bunch of old War Games matches just to kind prepare myself for it and get ready for it. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And now let me close out this video by ranting on the soon-to-be 0-16 Giants, who are the worst team in the NFL. And I just need to get this off my chest because they're so fucking terrible. I need to just rant about it. I mean, it's like I said, they are the worst team in the NFL. It is indisputable at this point. People still throw San Francisco and Cleveland at me, and I'm like, dude, Cleveland could beat us blindfolded. And it's not just, you can't, do it on a stats comparison or a talent-by-talent comparison, look at the rosters. I'm just telling you, I look at these New York Giants, and I see a team that constantly shoots themselves in the foot. Constantly. They've had leads in the fourth quarter the last 3 or 4 games, I think, and the last 3 games, and I knew they were going to blow it. I just knew they were. Because I could just see how much time was left. I could see how the defense was just not holding up. And I was like, they're going to blow this lead. And sure enough, they just keep doing it. So they're a team that's just bound to lose. I cannot fathom a team as woefully incompetent as this as being able to win a game. I just don't. To say nothing for the fact that 4 receivers went down with ankle injuries yesterday, including my favorite receiver for the New York Giants, Odell Beckham Jr., the guy that does not deserve to be a megastar, but the media constantly tries to hype as a megastar, Odell Beckham Jr. The dude is everything I hate about wide receivers. He's a head case. He's a lunatic. He's a behavioral problem. He is he went partying in Miami right before the playoffs last year, and we haven't won a game since. Funny how that works. He's a behavioral problem. He's got maturity problems. He's a head case. I guess he's injury prone because this is the second time this year he's gotten hurt. So, and he's down for the season. Now people are like, oh, Odell's down. The season's over. I'm like, dude, the season was over in week 2. Shut the fuck up. That's not even, there was no hope with or without Odell. And I would even argue, Odell's not going to be playing great. That's one less headache we have to worry about. I'm only pissed off that he's hurt and we can't trade him. Fuck that guy. Seriously, fuck that guy. He's a train wreck, and I can't wait to see him gone. Here's his legacy in New York, okay? Because I don't think he's going to come back next year. There's no way. I just don't see it. Whether we trade him or he leaves and asks out of his contract, or even if he's done. I've heard there's a possibility with this injury that could be the end of his career. Here's his legacy in New York. A one-handed catch in a game that we lost, partying in Miami before the playoffs, losing a fight to the kicking net, and pissing in the end zone like a dog. That's his legacy in New York. And I have to hear about what a great receiver he is. I'm like, dude, you can have all the physical gifts in the world, but if you're a mental head case and you're a behavioral problem, I want you off my team. I don't care. Because you're just not worth it. You are not worth it if you're going to act like that. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. You know who I miss? I miss Amani Toomer. That guy was as reliable as the sunrise. He's not going to get into the Hall of Fame. He didn't get a lot of love from the media. He wasn't like this, highly touted elite receiver. He was always there, though, when you needed him. If you needed him to be clutch, if you needed him to get those key catches to win games, if you needed him to score touchdowns when you needed it, Amani Toomer was always there. And he was never a behavioral problem. He was never a maturity problem. He was just a consummate professional. One of my favorite Giants players of all time. I love Amani Toomer, and I miss him greatly. So yeah, people are asking me if I'm upset that Odell got hurt, and I'm like, not really. No. I'm just upset that we can't trade him. That's my only problem with it. So yeah, we've got that problem. We have our defense, which all offseason, all this money that was spent on defense, and I kept hearing about how the Giants have an elite defense that is Super Bowl caliber. I had that thrown at me a couple of times, and I'm looking at this team, they can't stop shit. They are dude, fourth quarter rolls around, they're going to blow it. I just know they are. And because they've done it the last 3 games. They're not generating a lot of turnovers. They're not, they seem to stop the run pretty well. They're not a terrible defense, but they're not this elite defense, and they're certainly not worth the money that was paid for it. They're terrible. They're not terrible, but they're not as good as they were hyped up to be. and that is immensely disappointing. Our O-line is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. I mean, poor Eli is running for his life back there. The fact that he's able to throw, for 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards a game is incredible to me because he's constantly under duress. And I've heard people talk about it's like, oh, New York, they may want to consider making a change at quarterback. And I'm like, yes, it's Eli Manning's fault that this is happening. Yes, if we just had Aaron Rodgers under center, if we just had Tom Brady under center, we would be 1-4 instead of 0-5. It would be, it's like, dude, the problems with the Giants start at the top and work all the way down. It is not a simple case of just switch the quarterback out and it'll just magically fix everything. And if Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo are my respective GMs and head coaches next year, I will lose my goddamn mind because they have run this team into the ground. All offseason, everyone, from experts to fans, everybody said that they need to fix the O-line. This should be top priority. They didn't draft to fix the O-line. They didn't get anybody in free agency to fix the O-line. And we've got this shitty O-line now that can't protect and can't open up running lanes. It can't block, can't do anything. Terrific. The tight end we drafted, he's not a good blocker. They just got another receiver that we can't get the ball to because Eli Manning is on his back most of the time. Or having to throw out of bounds or whatever. It's just terrible. It is so disastrously bad. You can't justify Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo still having jobs next year. And Ben McAdoo has been, God, I miss Tom Coughlin. Because Ben McAdoo runs a very undisciplined team. The play calling is horrifically bad. I was watching the game against Philly a couple weeks ago, and Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were just talking about how if you're a Giants fan, you've got to be screaming at the TV right now because this play calling is ridiculous. I'm like, I know, right? It is so terrible. The play calling's abysmal. The O-line is abysmal. We've got a receiver who's a basket case. The front office is lousy. The coaching is lousy. Defense can't stop shit. I mean, holy fuck, the Giants are terrible. Worst team in the NFL. Undeniable at this point. You are the worst team in the NFL, and you're going 0-16. I'm at a point right now, if you start winning games, fuck you. No, we need to get the first pick of the draft, because right now, we are in a scorch the earth and start over scenario. This is going to be one of those, like, okay, the Giants are going to be bad for at least 5 or 6 years, and we've just got to scorch the earth and start over, and it starts with management, it starts with coaching. And I'm saying 5 or 6 years, that's assuming the new GM and coach they hire actually know what they're doing, which that's a crapshoot. But, we've got to get a new GM, we've got to get a new head coach and a new coaching staff, potentially a new coaching staff. We've got to use the top round, first pick of the draft very effectively. I would say draft a quarterback, most likely. We've got to get Eli's replacement because Eli's only got 1 more year left on his contract. And whether he finishes up, I don't know. But we've got to start planning for the future without Eli at this point. We need that first pick in the draft. We need to fix the goddamn O-line. We need receivers. We need to fix the defense. I mean, this is going to be like again, scorch the earth and start over type scenario, and it's going to take... Again, this is another reason why I get mad, where they say it's like, just switch out the quarterback, get a new quarterback, and you'll be set. It'll fix everything. And I'm like, no. This is we need to start over, burn the world down, and throw out the baby, the bathwater, and the tub it came in. Just start over. And it's going to take at least 5 or 6 years to fix this. If we're 4-12 next year, that's a step up. If we're 7-9 the year after that, that's a step up. If we can get back to a winning season within 4 or 5 years, that's great. That is best case scenario, because anything outside of that is pure fantasy and unfounded optimism. So the Giants suck. They are the worst team in the NFL. They're going to go 0-16. I've been saying it since week 2. This team is that incompetent where even in week 2, I was like, this team's not going to win a game. They're not going to win a game. They can't win a game. they're incapable of winning a game. And it sucks because the Cowboys have a losing season and I can't enjoy it because my team sucks so terribly. I mean, I'm not going to make fun of the Cowboys for having a losing season. I mean, fuck, they've got... the Cowboys could beat us without even trying. You know how I know that? They already did. They beat us going half speed on Sunday night, week 1. And I'm like, dude, the Cowboys are making this look effortless. They're not even trying, and they're making us look incompetent right now. I would shudder to think what the score of that game would have been if they'd actually tried. I mean, Philly, the score of that game is a lot closer than it should be because Philly took their foot off the pedal and kind of relaxed for a bit, and then we had like a miracle comeback in the fourth quarter, and we just almost caught Philly napping, and Philly was like, oh no, fuck this, we can't let that happen. And yeah, so the Giants are terrible. Incompetent. I feel bad for Eli that this is how his tenure in New York is going to end. But it is what it is, and it's an unfortunate scenario. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in New York. A lot of work. And this is the worst Giants team I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I've lived through some bad ones. I lived through the 90s, which, after the Super Bowl against the Bills, that was kind of a dark period. Try to imagine being a Giants fan in the 90s when you're a kid, and it's like, this is the team we're supposed to root for, but they're terrible. But goddamn, I will gladly take some of those 90s Giants teams back over this team. This team is horrible. Woefully incompetent, incapable of winning a game, and the season was over I said week 2. The fact that they couldn't fix anything after that disastrous performance against the Cowboys, and they've only gotten worse since then, it's like, okay, they're done. They're just, this is an 0-16 team waiting to happen. And like I said, at this point, if they even attempt to win a game, I'm going to get pissed. It's like, no, just play to the bottom, get your first round draft pick, and start over. Because this is I'm looking at this roster right now. Regardless of age, I expect everybody on the current team to be out of the franchise or out of the team, off the roster within the next 3 to 4 years. Because this is, like I said, this is a fire sale type situation where we need to start over. But that's all I got. I just wanted to rant about the Giants because they are truly fucking horrible, and I just wanted to rant on that for those of you who care to listen. So that is all I have today. That's the end of this video. Thank you all for listening. And I'll have more for you in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that.